Hello everyone, you are welcome to AD 214 class and happy new year to you. I hope you enjoy your holidays. Okay, today's class we'll be looking at developing learning objectives for continuing education program. Okay, when it comes to developing learning objectives, it is crucial for creating effective and engaging learning experiences. Here are the steps to guide you. You must first of all identify the overall goal of the learning experience. What do you want your learners to be able to do or to be able to apply at the end of the whole learning experience? You must be able to craft an overarching goal that will encompass all the learning experiences within the course program. So the goal must be achieved at the end of the day. If your goal at the end of the continuing education program is to ensure that your learner becomes professional at developing a continuing education program or package, if at the end your learners of clientele cannot do that, then you already know that your goal is not achieved. As such, when crafting a goal, it must be very clear, very concise, and be measurable. Second step is to consider the learner's prior knowledge and experience. You will agree with me that no learner, especially when it comes to adult, is a tabula rasa, meaning that they all have their own learning or knowledge that they brought into an educational program. So, it is therefore important that you consider your learner's prior knowledge and experience. You want to determine their learning styles. You want to determine their preferences. This must be considered at the beginning of the learning experience. By your relationship with them, by the contact you exchange with them, you determine their prior knowledge. It can be in your first encounter with them. You should be able to determine what they already know prior to this program and what they are expected to know, including their preferences. This is very important for you to develop or craft out learning objectives that will be robust and meet their needs. The third step is to define the level of learning you want to achieve. What is the magnitude of what you want your learners or clients to achieve? The learning magnitude of what you want them to achieve. In order to be able to do this, you can consider using Bloom's taxonomy. Are you aiming for your learners to remember information? Is it just for them to remember information, or just to be able to understand a concept, or be able to define a concept, or apply new knowledge to new situation? You must be able to determine the level of learning you want them to achieve. Is it for them to be able to analyze information, evaluate information, reflect, or solve a critical problem using critical problem solving skills? Or you want them to create something out of nothing? You should be able to determine that. Bloom's taxonomy already has the level of learning achievement that you want your client to be able to do or achieve at the end of the day. So you can consider using Bloom's taxonomy to determine the level of learning you want them to achieve. Okay. Another important step is to ensure that you write specific and measurable learning objectives. At this stage, you must be able to use action verbs that describe what learners will be able to do at the end of the learning exercise. Your objective must be SMART, must be specific, must be measurable, must be achievable, must be realistic, and must be time specific. Like I always reiterate it in the previous classes, this is important for you to be able to determine what you want to achieve at the end of each particular contact you have with your learners. For meeting with them today or in a particular class, this is what you want them to achieve. The next time you meet with them, this is what you want them to achieve. This is what they will be able to do. All these small learning goals or objectives will help you to achieve the overall learning goal. So meaning that you have broken the overall or overarching goal of the program into small deliverables and achieving it at every contact or at every learning contact you have with your learners. So you must ensure that the objectives are specific enough to be measurable and can be observable. The next step is to use clear and concise language. This is very important. Avoid using jargon or technical terms that will get them confused, that they will not make them to understand what you're trying to say, especially when you know the categories or the level of knowledge or the level of technical knowledge of your audience. So you must not take the learning or teach them in such a way that you get them lost at the beginning or during the process. Relate with them. Use the language that they must understand. This is very important. Make sure that the objectives are easy to read and understand. Hence, you must use verbs that will reflect their desired learning objective. So, for instance, when it comes to verbs, you may want to look at remembering, for instance, for them to be able to identify, for them to be able to list, for them to be able to name or define a concept. So, or for them to be able to explain, to interpret, to summarize, or paraphrase something. This is very crucial so that you can determine what they have been able or what they will be able to do at every learning experience or learning journey. This will now make you to be able to evaluate what they have been able to do at the end of that learning experience. So in other words, you'll be able to review and refine your learning objectives. Sit down, look at what you have been able to craft and see whether what you have drafted will be achieved at the end of the day. That's why it's very important for you to review it. Put yourself in their shoes and see whether this will be achieved. They will be able to learn this at the end of the teaching learning experience. So it is important that you review and refine your learning objectives. To be able to do this, here are some steps, a resource that I shared that you can click on the link. I'll put the link on the comment section. Click on the link and look at Other steps involved in writing a clear and measurable learning objectives. I'm going to put this link on the comment section. Click on it and you can read further. Now, let's look at a case study on developing learning objectives. Having looked at the steps, developing learning objectives for an adult education coding course scenario. This is an adult education program and you want to develop a coding course scenario for a particular category of clientele. So, to be able to do this, you want to determine the goal of the program. As an adult education coding school, you want them to be able to develop a new course on coding for primary health care. To be able to do this, you must determine your target audience. Who are our target audience? Individuals with no prior medical coding experience who want to become class certified medical coders. What is the goal of the program? It is to equip students with the knowledge and skills necessary to accurately and efficiently code medical diagnosis and procedures for primary healthcare setting in a primary healthcare settings. So we know our target audience, we know the goal that we want to achieve. Equip our students or prospective students with efficient medical diagnosis and procedural codes for primary healthcare settings. Then, what is our learning objectives? Our learning objectives will span through the knowledge phase, the comprehension, the application, the analysis, and evaluation. For instance, for the knowledge case, we'll be looking at that at the end, students or learners will be able to define some medical terms like CPT, like ICD, like HCPCS level 2 of or any form of coding related in medical line. Students will be able to identify different types of medical records used in primary healthcare settings. You have been able to touch, by stating this, you have been able to touch on the knowledge aspect. What about the comprehension? Students or learners will be able to describe the basic principles of medical coding guidelines. Students or learners will be able to interpret medical terminologies used in primary healthcare centers. They should be able to analyze patient records to identify the appropriate codes for diagnosis and procedures. You have been able to touch on the comprehension aspect. What about the application? Learners will be able to code a variety of diagnoses and procedures encountered in primary healthcare settings using CPT and other forms of coding related in medical fields. They should be able to apply medical coding guidelines to specific case studies. They should be able to demonstrate proficiency in using medical coding software. What about for the analysis? They should be able to analyze the impact of coding errors on reimbursement and quality of care. Students or learners will be able to compare and contrast different coding systems through the analysis done. What about for evaluation? They should be able to assess the quality of medical coding done by others. Learners should be able to develop strategies for improving their coding skills, you have seen that I've been able to touch on all the 5 learning objectives. I've been able to draft 5 learning objectives using these 5 Bloom's taxonomy. And look at the verbs that I've used. They are action verbs that we're able to determine what they should be able to do. And we can measure them in specific terms. This is very important when drafting learning objectives. If you don't state them in a specific and measurable terms, to evaluate them becomes difficult. Are we together? Now, the learning objectives could be developed through a collaborative process, meaning that you cannot just sit down at the comfort of your zone or your office to develop the learning objectives. It has to be a collaborative process, meaning that you have to meet with your prospective learners, you have to meet with stakeholders that will be part and parcel of that program to gather 1 or 2 information that will help you in developing or crafting a robust learning objectives. Now, for you to be able to do that, it must involve the following steps: needs assessment. Of course, you know that you must carry out needs assessment. You must be able to conduct that to be identify the needs, the knowledge, the skills required for entry level medical coding positions in primary healthcare centers. To be able to do this, you want to interview or have a personal contact with the employer's medical line, the medical student. You want to review jobs descriptions and analyze the trends in the industry, in the medical industry, so that you can determine what that are required to be in your educational package and the codings you want to develop. What about for the curriculum development? The learning objectives will then be aligned with the overall curriculum of the medical coding course. Remember, or do note that your learning objectives that you are developing must align with the curriculum that you want to use or you want to expose your learners to. So this ensures that the objectives were comprehensive and cover all the essential topics. How do you then validate? The learning objectives will be reviewed by experts in the medical line to determine the accuracy and relevance of the learning objectives you have been able to develop or crafted. So these are collaborative processes you can involve or you can put together to ensure that you get the required information to develop your learning objectives. The needs assessment is important. It is from the needs assessment that you determine the knowledge gap, the skills required into entering that profession. When you have been able to do this, you can then align with the curriculum of the medical course. Validate it through experts in that profession so that you can be rest assured that the content you want to expose your learners to are validated and are able to meet their needs at the end of the learning experience. Another, in the course of the case study, once you have been able to determine the learning objectives, the content, which is the curriculum that you have developed, you might want to ponder on how to assess them. This is the assessment. You can do the assessment through quizzes and exams, like we always do. Give them coding assignments and case studies. You can even engage them on immersion project. Doing this will make the evaluation smooth sailing. Through the evaluation, you get feedback and analysis of learners' performance at the end of the day. At the last is the outcome. How far has the outcome been able to achieve? The successful development and implementation of these learning objectives will result in graduates who are well prepared for entry-level medical coding positions in primary care settings. Another outcome we are looking forward to is increased efficiency and accuracy in medical coding practices. Another very important outcome is to improve the quality of care for patients. Now, if you look at the outcomes that I've read out or I've explained now, and check the learning objectives I stated in the previous slide, you will see that they are in tandem, because it is the learning objectives that will determine the kind of outcomes we'll have. They must align. If you did not achieve the learning outcome, then the learning objective is faulty or is not well developed. So, I hope you have idea of what this case study is all about. If you have any question, you can put it on the comment section. I will explain further. You must, at every point in time, get feedbacks from your audience, from your clients, about the educational package you are putting forward to them or you are exposing them to, so that you continue to use it to review and improve on the learning content and the learning objectives you have developed. Now, based on the case study I've analyzed or explained to you, I want you to also develop a case study of your own using the discussed steps for any related course program. You can choose another educational program in the field of adult education, be it in the literacy, in the social welfare space, or in the training and development space. Or personally, what you do. If you are into website design, but want to develop a coding program of your own, if you are in cosmetics or cosmetology, you can do that. Develop a course program for your profession or career. Just think of your own case study and use the steps I have discussed to develop your own. Once you do that, submit using this Google form. So I'm going to drop this link on the comment section. Click on it and put what you have developed, the learning objectives you have developed using this case study. Put it there and it will be assessed. Right. Selecting appropriate content and learning objectives in continuing education. What are the factors to consider? If you want to select appropriate learning content, and learning activities in continuing education. It is crucial at this stage to ensure that the learning activities, the total learning experience is fun and engaging. It is also effective and aligned with the goals of the program. So, needs assessment is very important factor in achieving this. I've been stressing on needs assessment because needs assessment will help you to know your target audience, determine the stage where they are and their desired future stage. The needs assessment will help you to bridge the gap between the current state of your learners and their desired stage. So that is why needs assessment is very important at every point in time. It's an important factor to consider when you want to select appropriate content and learning activities in continuing education. You might want to analyze learners' needs, your target audience needs, the knowledge, the gaps, the skills, the efficiencies they have, and their desired learning outcomes. Also, through needs assessment, you consider their age, their experience level, and career aspirations, professional requirements. You check for different programs they have been able to attempt in the course of owning the skills they desire to own. Also, for content selection, this is very important because your content must be relevant. It therefore means that you need to prioritize content that directly addresses the identified needs and learning objectives. Ensure it's current, accurate, and evidence-based. That's the content. The content you want to develop or you have developed must meet the direct needs of your learners. The content must also have depth and scope. You must balance the content depth with breadth, avoiding overburdening learners with excessive information while covering key topics. The content must be applicable to their day-to-day lifestyle. The practicality of the content must be top-notch. Hence, focus on practical applications and skills development. To be able to make it more practical, choose content that translates into real-world scenarios and benefits learners in their professional settings. Once we have been able to conduct the needs assessment, develop content that aligns with their needs and aspirations, then what about the learning activities? You must ensure that the learning activities or the teaching learning activities is fun and engaging. Must not be boring. Employ diverse learning activities to cater to different learning styles and preferences. Rather than lecture method, use case studies, do simulations, you can do workshops, you can do role play to drive home your point, you can do group discussions, you can do presentations, or we can do online learning modules like we do in our own class. Active participation is also important to encourage active learning and engagement through interactive activities. ask questions, brainstorm, exercises, and give room for peer-to-peer feedback and collaboration. This is very important. Under the learning activities, you must also consider the accessibility of the activities that you are using to deliver the learning content. How accessible are the activities? Are they inclusive of learners? I hope the learning activities or the method you have chosen will not segregate some learners and make them feel not part of the class. I hope you are not gender biased, or you will not be gender biased. Or you must consider various learning abilities of your learners and even technological challenges. In learning activities, you must also consider feedbacks and evaluation. Always incorporate ongoing feedback during the teaching and learning exercise. You must monitor your learners' progress and adapt content and activities to their needs. Remember, their needs can change at any point in time based on the conversation or based on the flow of the class. You must be able to be smart to determine that. In the teaching learning delivery, technological adoption and integration is very important. To leverage technology strategically to enhance learning experiences and collaborative learning. Sometimes it is very good to collaborate with experts in that field. Invite them to be guest speakers, people from the industry, so that they can share their experiences on how they are carrying out the project in a very unique way. So when they share their expertise and insight, it will enrich the learning experiences of your learners. So by and large, by thoughtfully considering these factors, there are these three factors: the needs assessment, content selections, and learning activities. You will tailor your approach to the specific context and needs of your learners. By this, you can create a continuing education program that is both effective and engaging, and promoting skills development and contributing to professional growth of your clientele. So these three factors are very, very important when selecting appropriate content and learning activities in continuing education. I hope you are together. Lastly, how do we assess learners' needs and preferences in continuing education? To be able to assess their needs accurately and determine their preferences, it is crucial to design an effective and engaging continuing education program. And to do that, you must have an interface with your audience or clientele. Get information from them. And that's why needs assessment is very important. So, two ways: through formal data collection and informal data collection. You must meet with them. Get your data collection or get required data from them using surveys and questionnaires, focus groups, and needs assessment. I've discussed this with you in your previous class. So these are formal ways to gather information from your learners or clients. Informal way can be before the course actually kickstarts. You do interview with them to get to know them, to get to familiarize yourself with them and what they are looking forward to. During the course of the program or the learning experience, you can do icebreakers. Icebreakers is very good in teaching learning situations when you are doing physical contact. When you observe that your learners are probably they want to get bored or they are finding it difficult to follow through, you can introduce icebreakers to get them re-energized. You observe them and interact with them. These are professional ways of gathering information or data from your audience informally. Other ways is to ensure that you segment your learners, put them in different categories. What is so peculiar about these people? What is so peculiar about this category of people? What do they want? What is their style? So based on your segmentation, you can now prioritize their learners and their needs. Let them have input in the content development. Whatever their inputs are, be flexible, include it, adapt it to the learning content. By doing all of this, you can assess learners' needs and preferences in continuing education seamlessly. So you can do that formally or informally through these data collection tools. If you have any question so far, you can put it in the comment section. Thank you for listening. Do not forget, I'm going to check the comment section. You will see the Google form link where you will put the tasks you are asked to do and submit it accordingly. Bye bye for now.